Hey there, welcome. And right now we're going to talk about why building a strategy at the wrong time could be devastating to your game. Because this is a tennis strategy 301 presentation. And this is for the player who's 4-0 to 4-5 and wanting to go higher. So it's important to realize that you have to put the building blocks in place. There's a progression of things that have to happen before you can confidently play a new strategy. So there's a what a lot of people do is they might take a lesson or they might practice on the ball machine a certain shot, one of these two things, and then they think they're going to go play a match and have that new tactic or strategy in their game. But that's not really going to work. You have to take a longer process. You have to do more to build the confidence in the game because, you know, a lesson, especially from a pro that makes you look good by feeding you the ball just right so that it's just the way you want it, that's different than the match. The match, the opponent is going to try to hit you the ball in the worst possible way. So, you have to be realistic about how do these things get built in and how long of a time does it take. So, if you're going into the meat of your schedule, then I'm going to say your game is your game. You just play how your game is. If you have an A game and a B game, fine. If you don't have a C game, don't try to play a C game. So this brings in periodization. So it's important to realize the periodization schedule. When you're a brand new player, you're not really playing a lot of matches. Your season is unpredictable to some degree. You're probably going to play more in the summertime than you do the rest of the year. That's true for most people. But a lot of people, they play a lot in the very early spring until the late spring. That's the meat of their schedule. And for some people, it's the fall. So everybody's got a little bit of a different thing. So the most important thing is, let's take an example of somebody who's going to have a really heavy summer schedule, and those are all the really important tournaments for them. What I generally recommend is that as the season's winding down in the late fall, that from say the end of September into the rest of the year, that's a great time to focus on your fitness and working on strokes. Work on your technique that you're going to need to build in a new part of your game, right? So let's say you want to become a serve and volleyer. Well, you're going to need a variety of spin serves. So the more variety you have to your spin serve game, the better. So take that fall and spend 6 weeks practicing your serve once a week for 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. You don't want to serve more than a couple of hundred serves. I think the most I would ever recommend would be about 200 serves. That would be about the most. A lot of people say about 100 serves. And the reason is because all that repetitive serving is pretty hard on your shoulder. So, you're going to need a good kick serve and you're going to need a good slice serve. And then you learn to, do some spins that are in between that. And that's going to make your serve and volley game much better when the other player is having a hard time reading your serve and how it behaves. Another thing would be that you want to come to the net more in other ways and maybe a more conservative way. And if you've never really been someone who comes to the net at all, then one thing you could do in the fall, if you're this summertime player, is you could work on returning second serves down the line and following them into the net, right? So, take a lesson or set up the ball machine so that it's hitting a ball that goes into, into the service box, and then practice coming forward and then come forward and volley. But then, so what you need is, you probably want a lesson. Get a coach, take one lesson on how to take a second serve return and approach. Then get on the ball machine, set it up so that it does that, or get a practice partner who will practice their second serve with you, and put some practice into it. Get a nice 30-minute practice on that. Sometimes if you can even get 10 minutes, it makes a big difference. So do some practice. And I'll tell you this: if you're not going to practice, you're not going to go very high in your game. So once I myself got very serious about practicing certain strokes, I moved up levels pretty quickly. And at the top of my game, when I was having like a magical kind of period of time before I got hurt, and I was playing pretty darn well. I was playing 5-5 level, maybe even a little moments of 6-0 level tennis, but it was because I was practicing shots. So you have to practice. All right, so now you take your lesson, you do some practice, then you go and you play a practice set, right? So you find somebody who's willing to do this, and it's like, all right, let's play a set where you only hit one serve and I come to the net. And then the next thing would be, we'll play a set where I feed you the shot that you want to work on, and we play that point out, and we play it like a service game. And play a set out like that. And it doesn't really matter who wins the set, but you want that element of competition, and the points count. And so you have to deal with being down 15-40, or having a game point or a break point, to have that that situation. Because a big mistake that people make when they try to build a strategy into their game is they don't have a practice match situation. They don't have point play situations that they practice. And then that makes the transition into actually doing it, harder. And then what you want to do is, you want to have a practice match situation where nothing is scripted, but you have an objective. You're going to go into this one, and you're going to say, okay, this is a practice set. I'm not even going to tell my opponent what I'm doing, but I'm going to approach the net on every second serve. Even when it's a bad idea, I want to find out, when is it a bad idea? So I'm going to come in on everything. And then, one time I was presenting on this, and I was, telling people that they should, in order to come to the net and learn to come to the net, that for a short while you should come in on everything. And then I got this pushback from somebody in the audience. They were like, but what if they get passed, right? I'm like, well, yeah, and then you'll learn that on that particular ball, you don't come in on that one. You have to experiment with it to find out, where is that line drawn. I mean, this was one thing that when I was younger, I had a coach who was like, okay, so now you're able to come in on these balls that are landing in front of the service line. That's fine, but now let's see if you can come in on a ball that's 3 feet behind the service line, and then 5 feet behind the service line. And now let's see what's the absolute deepest shot that you can come in on. And, once the ball's in the second half of the big rectangle, that's a pretty difficult ball to come in on. So for almost anybody. But you have to have it in a live situation. And then, if you're having this practice set, presumably this person who's playing this with you is really wanting to win, and you're wanting to win, but it doesn't count in any standings. And you have to be okay with possibly losing the set in the effort of trying to build the thing into your game. So I had an interesting situation. I was coming off of a knee surgery, and I had been off the court for 6 weeks and had gained a little bit of weight, and I was just getting back to where I could move around a little bit. So I was ready to. So I got this guy, and he was a little, maybe one level lower than me, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to play a practice set?" You know, and he said, "Sure," and I was like, "Yeah, just so you know, I'm just gonna be hitting a ton of flat serves because my flat serve is off right now, so I'm not gonna hit barely any kick serves unless I start double faulting a bunch. You know, I'm not gonna let you down." But just so you know, I'm going to call this practice it. So anyway, so he said fine. So anyway, so we play this set, and then, you know, and I was dedicated to ironing out my flat serve, and then he ended up winning the set 6-4. And then the funny thing is, he then went ahead and told everybody that he beat me. And that's the risk you run, you know. It's kind of silly, you know. And I was the tennis pro for the city at that time, and we were at the public courts where I teach, playing this match, and then afterwards, you know, and then man, I had to hear about that for weeks, and I was like, you know, that was a practice match, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I mean, Alan won that one. Great, congratulations, Alan. So. You know, sometimes people, I think, don't play practice sets because of the ego thing. They don't want to play a practice set and lose and then have that in their mind. But, you know, there's not really much way around it. But, you know, the interesting thing was, in a matter of weeks, my flat serve was, you know, back in play. And I'm glad I went through that, even though I had to listen to all that, you know, garbage from people. But so, you know, you have to go through these stages, you know, if you, so, you know, learn the skill, practice the skill, do live point play situations, do practice match situations, and it could be scripted or not scripted. And then you're much more likely to be able to put that into your game. And this could take weeks or months. So here's an example. Aaron, I've mentioned him in previous videos. You know, at first, you know, he was going into his senior year, and he was likely going to play singles, and I knew that he didn't have enough of a baseline game to you know, be dominating at his position, but he volleyed pretty well. But you know, as long as he only had to make one volley, he was great. If he had to make 2 volleys, his volley wasn't that great. Well, anyway, so we focused on his approach shot. So going into, you know, in the summer before the season, because his season was February through middle of May. We did all this work in the summertime, and you know, then once the school year starts, then I don't really see him for a little while. But in the summer, we worked on, you know, giving him a nice, decent target for a tough approach shot, so that if he gets it in that target area, it's going to be difficult for the person hitting the passing shot to hit a really strong passing shot past him. So, you know, if you're going to be good at the net, you either need great approach shots or you need great volleys. Your great volleys can make up for your not so great approach shot, and vice versa. If you want to be great at the net, then you have to have great both of those. Anyway, so he made that effective in his senior year. And that worked out really well. And then as he was getting ready to play college tennis, then we shrunk that target area by 1/3, maybe even a half. And then also, you know, so we refined his target, and then for the approach, And then we also worked a lot on what to do when somebody makes a good first passing shot that you can't hit a winner on. So we started working on 2-shot volley combinations. So now, if he has a volley and he can't knock it off for a winner, then he would steer that up the line deep as like a second approach shot, and then, pinning that person along the sideline, and then also keeping the other court open so that he could then finish on the next shot. So that's an example of something that takes some time to work on. You don't just do one private lesson on that and start doing it right away. So, another thing that I've done with my teams is we'll build in a certain combination of shots. Like, all right, so here I'll say the first shot is going to be a topspin shot. The second shot is going to be a slice, and the third shot is going to be a flat ball. And what this does is it helps them to do two things. One, it teaches them to have some disruption that they can have in their game. And the other thing is it helps them to practice against somebody who is disruptive. So, it makes things ugly, it makes things weird, but you're not having the academy ball, as Robert Lansdorp calls it, where everybody's hitting heavy topspin all the time. And then those people are not equipped for when they play somebody who's got a disruptive game. I one time had a funny match where I lost the first set. It was really close. I was serving and volleying, and I decided, okay, I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to go 3 hours and 45 minutes in this match. So, because I have other things I need to do today. So I started trying to overpower the guy. That didn't work. I got down 2 breaks, 3 love, like that. So I was like, okay, it's time to play some junk ball. So I just started slicing them all over the place. And then after playing all this junk ball with him, and he was spraying balls all over, and then he kind of started timing that a little bit. So I added a couple of hard shots in there, and that threw him off again. So at the end of the match, he didn't even want to shake my hand. He said, play like a man. And I'm like, okay. See where his ego's at, right? So he's got this play like a man mentality. And I'm like, well, I prefer playing smart. So it's all about the W. But it's okay if you don't want to shake my hand. It's not a good reflection on you. But learning to play that junk style meant going out and hitting, a slice shot followed by a flat shot, by a topspin shot, by a ball with more topspin, less topspin, over here, over there. You have to practice that stuff because the timing that you need to do that is a little more difficult than just hitting one more topspin shot right after one after another. So you want to work on these things at a time when you're not in the middle of the toughest part of your season, because it takes time. It could take weeks. Like I said, it could take weeks or months to get these things really built in so that you do them automatically without thinking. And then you also, like Aaron, you need to know what are the limitations. If you're coming to the net, if your net game's not great, and that you have to make a great approach shot in order to earn your way to the net, then as soon as you see you didn't hit a great approach shot, then you don't come to the net. I mean, you have to know. It's in practicing that you'll know that. You'll know if you're only good at coming in on balls in front of the service line. You'll know if you can hit one 3 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet. 7 is a stretch. It's really 7 feet behind the service line. Go look at that. Go look at where that is. It's a pretty deep shot. So you have to periodize. You have to plan this in. You have to say, okay, where's my spot for that? And then Generally, when I'm coaching a team, once we're getting into what we call the competition phase, which is a 2-week period of time where all we're really doing is playing. I don't even really do a lot of conditioning, but I don't teach any new stroke stuff. I don't teach any new tactics. We just practice what we've got, and we work on accentuating the strengths that already exist. Because the worst possible thing you could do is try to add a new strategy of the 5 strategies: power, player, pressure, time and space, pressure, movement, disrupt rhythm, and counter punching baseliner, run around, retrieving. Those 5 things, if you try to add that, a week or 2 before a big competition, it's just not going to work. You just aren't going to have built up enough confidence that you can do it. You won't have problem solved all the things that you can problem solve out when you get a lesson with a coach, practice it in like a blocked practice thing against a ball machine or somebody feeding you, a controlled point play situation where you have a partner who's hitting you a certain shot, and then practice matches, and then finally you're going to be able to go out there and make it happen. So anyway, this is tennis strategy 301 for the player who's the 4-0, who wants to get the 4-5 and beyond. And some 4-5s and 5-0s could benefit from this kind of a talk. I'm guessing if you're a 5-5, you already know this stuff for sure. 5-0s probably do. All right. So spend your social digital currency, press like, subscribe. If you buy a book, that'll be great. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and go out there and be generous. Make sure that you're tipping your baristas and your wait staff and all that stuff, and showing that good gratitude, because it's a great thing to do. It's really good for you to do that. So anyway, thank you and have a great day.